Today is March 11, 2026, and this is the City of Prescott Council Subcommittee on General Plan Review. Roll call, please.
Chair Roosing,
Here.
Vice Chair Grady,
Here.
Committee Member Frederickson. Here. All are present.
Thank you. Next item.
Approval of the February 11th and February 25th, 2026 Subcommittee for General Plan Review minutes.
Any comments?
No, but I'll move to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Please vote. I think we have to do it verbally. Aye.
Vote passes 3-0.
Okay, next item.
Discussion regarding the following chapters of the June 24th, 2025 draft general plan, starting with Chapter 2, A Community Connected.
Okay. I guess I'll start off. This was a very interesting section. So we're going to do 2, A Community Connected, 3, Great Places and Neighborhoods, and 4, Economic Competitiveness and Prosperity. So we're covering quite a lot today, and it doesn't seem like the public's here. That's unusual. That's unusual to have an empty chamber here. So I'd like to just start off with our first page. It says 42 on my version. A community connected. I think it'd be nice if we had the number, what chapter we were on, instead of just saying a community connected, if we could have the numbers.
Has it on the page before?
Yeah.
That's something we can note
Yeah,
to merge if that's easy
I don't
to
like those
access.
big pictures.
Okay,
So if we could
perfect.
just have the number.
Noted.
And then I was thinking about saying, instead of a community connected, something a little more specific, something about circulation and connectivity and circulation, which is circulation is more in line with the state statutes, the circulation element. I don't know how the rest of you feel.
We can note that too and see if the consultant has a recommended title
Yeah.
for this chapter.
And then, as you know, SIMPO, Central Yavapai Metropolitan Planning Organization, does not exist anymore. It's now called Y Plan or Yavapai Plan, so we need to eliminate SIMPO, but we might initially say formally known as SIMPO, Central Yavapai, and just kind of clarify that.
Mayor?
Yes,
I'm just
Mary.
going to add in, carrying on what we had mentioned at this first review session, to include references to the statute and the particular sections in the statute. Mayor just mentioned that connectivity was part of
Yes.
the statute. Just within this first section, noting the subsections of the statute,
Yes.
I think is helpful.
Good point, because that would be C, I think it's C2, a circulation element. Yeah, I think I like that, so that at least for the public, they know that we're following the state statutes and not making stuff up here. But anyway, so include a mention of the old name, Central Yavapai Metropolitan Planning Organization, SIMPO acronym, change to Yavapai Plan, and then in Y Plan. And the next page talks about what it does. And I think it talks about their funding elements. But on this page, it talks about our FCC and our cellular facilities are very important in the connectivity. And at that last paragraph that starts, more efforts are needed to balance resident concerns and engage the public in decisions regarding the construction and location, include location of cellular facilities. And then explore stealth technologies, which is, just putting cellular panels in flagpoles like out there at the mall, Gateway Mall. Now it's called Pine Ridge, or church steeples. We have them in our parking garage, pine trees, swirl cactus, that kind of thing. And then co-location, meaning you put panels up, new panels on existing structures to diminish visual impacts. That way you have more public acceptance, because there is a discussion whether or not it decreases your property values. Some people say no, some people say yes, but it does improve the sale of a home if you have good internet services. And if you don't have internet services, that does impact home sales, from what I hear.
So do we have some of this on page 56 when we get into more detail under digital connectivity?
Yeah,
Some of what the mayor's comments are?
Yeah, we can reinforce it there too, just in case. And then moving on to transportation planning. This is a big topic. So once again, changing SIMPO's name. I'd say it says SIMPO is the designated regional transportation planning authority. I'd say be a little more specific. It's a kind of like a clearinghouse for federal funding, is what a metropolitan planning organization is, an MPO. So it's actually an MPO that distributes, does federal, it's kind of like a middleman where the funds are shunted through these MPOs. But I'd like to use the word MPO, Metropolitan Planning Organization.
Well, in the first, in the
Yes.
first paragraph under the heading Central Yavapai, that'll get changed. It does include in here the establishment of a metropolitan planning organization, but you might, just to emphasize that is
Yeah.
in fact a thing,
This is what it is.
capitalize the first, those words, metropolitan planning organization,
Yeah.
just to make sure people understand that's
It's
a thing.
It's a federal, and we got to make sure that people know it's on a federal, it's a federal entity.
Update and elaborate, can do.
Yeah. Okay. And then the next one on page 44, continuing with circulation and connectivity. This map makes no sense. We need a real map in the back, like what it's required by statutes, that shows our major arterials and future arterials. So we need to get that from SIMPO. In fact, I would like to ask that we request from Vinnie and SIMPO that they look at their this connectivity section and update it for us and provide us a map that shows some future planned roadways out there.
Maybe as part of that, we can provide SIMPO, Y-Plan, with the maps we're currently thinking of, or at least is included here, and say, is there a more updated, from your perspective, map that we should use instead?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we're going to have to change their website because it still says SIMPO on it. It's here in green. And then we have a list of things that many of the study's regional improvement recommendations over the last 20 years have been achieved. So they talk about side road improvements, Williamson Valley Road, YAFP connector. I'd like to include Highway 69, widening and eliminating bottlenecks have been done. And then SR 89, safety, widening, and improvements. is what we're going to be doing through the Dells. And there is going to be some widening. And then AED 89 to Jasper Parkway, you know, from the Fippen, that's going to be going in, the Fippen Museum roundabout east.
Mayor, isn't this list that we're looking at right now things that have been achieved as opposed
Yeah.
to things that are upcoming?
Including, well, that's true, yeah.
Yes, that is correct.
Maybe we should include pending projects, because we're going to be doing Willow Creek Road widening and safety improvements right there where Sandretto Hills are, and the intersection, we're going to be improving the intersection of Willow Creek and Willow Lake Road, you know, where the old Mortimers used to be. We're going to be working on that, so we might want to include some future things. And then we move on to the Deep Well Master Plan, which I think we already did. Connect 89 with Pioneer Parkway and Willow Creek Road. That was realigned already. We might want to say that was already done. And then if you flip it over to the next page, 45, these maps, my comments on these maps, I can't read them. So we might want to incorporate this into, you know, into that one large circulation map. And then we talk about Arizona eco-development. And let's see, this was done. And we need to talk about the extension. Here it is. This is our future stuff. The extension of the Fippen Trail across Granite Creek with a low water crossing. I think it's important we go across Granite Creek. That's part of the DA, that we are putting in a low water crossing and not a bridge. And then Granite Dells Estates, Y-Plan needs to, you know, update this part too. But I think it's pretty much correct here, what they're going to be doing.
Do we know,
Yeah, I think since it's just the three of us, I just jump in.
just jump in?
Yeah, it's a conversation.
Are these maps that we have for the particular developments, they are provided by the developer? Do we know? I don't think these are maps that the city developed.
No, that's correct. They're both provided by the developer.
And I'm just looking at the Granite Dells Estates. This map is notated as having been amended in August 2017, almost 10 years ago. I wonder if Granite Dells Estates has a more, I don't know if their plans have changed that much in the last 9 years.
It has.
They may have, I would think.
Massively changed.
Right, so they may have a more up-to-date map, thumbnail map that they can provide for us to put in here instead of this 9-year-old map.
Yeah, maybe just include all these new subdivisions in our circulation map, you know, when we have a full-size map at the back. So it'll give us more of a comprehensive view instead of just these little snapshots.
Yep, can do.
And then moving on to,
So in Granite Dells Estates. Excuse me, in Granite Dells Estates, there's a closing statement regarding the completing its connection north to SR 89A at the future Great Western Corridor. Is that something that Y-Plan or the city of Prescott has agreed to?
that's something that the Y-Plan Executive Board, they have like a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, a 50-year plan, and so these are all on those plans.
And that reference is specific to the Jasper
Yeah.
development, which is in Prescott Valley, not Prescott.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because we were recently just talking about the Great Western Corridor, and I think that's kind of in limbo. I don't think it's kind of like the Sundog connector. I think both of them are kind of not going to be happening because it's going through private property. The Great Western's going through private property, and the developed owners don't.
Are you speaking to the north of 89A?
Yes.
Out
yeah,
through the
Great,
grasslands?
The Great
Right.
Western, yeah, through, yeah. Okay, so moving on to the next page, 46. I don't have any comments other than we need to make sure that the link is functional here. Capital improvement projects, I imagine it would be. And then, I don't know, maybe have a larger truck route system map so we can read it better. It's kind of hard for me to read. But I'm glad we're talking about the truck routes. And then if there's no more comments, 47. Once again, coordinate strategy 1.1, coordinate with ATOT and Y-Plan to complete the update of the Central Yavapai County Regional Transportation Study and related future plan. And I think SIMPO needs to look at this, these strategies, because it includes something about their 5-year plan. But I didn't really have too many changes other than including smart traffic lights and timing of lights under strategies and striping. I've noticed we've been doing some striping around town this last week. That's been very nice. Because we've been timing some lights and including smart traffic lights, and it's really improved our flow. If you drive 45 miles, if you drive the speed limit, it really makes a difference. And let's see. Then moving on to 48. Get rid of the big picture. And I didn't see any changes on 48.
Is there, I didn't spot it, and since I was on the original drafting of this thing, you'd think I would be aware, but is there any inclusion here in the transportation area as far as alleyways go? I know we, especially in the older parts of town, we have alleys that a lot of people use to access their garages or their homes. So we have the various levels of streets, and then we drop away. And so I don't know if there's anything in the plans or thinking about strategies for addressing some of those alleyways are deficient.
I think that's a good idea. We could add that to a strategy 1.5, improving alleyways to handle traffic, because, you know, look at our St. Michael's alleyway, back alley. You know, that handles pedestrian traffic. And it's true, there are alleyways that are paved and they kind of take, you know, are used by the neighbors, takes traffic off the main street. We might, you know, that's a good idea, kind of a little niche that older neighborhoods can utilize. And then on page 49, we talk about public transit. I would mention, it talks about developing higher density senior housing, emphasizing the need for transit to serve the population that no longer drives. And I think I'd throw in something about public transit and workforce, because that was part of the plan with public transit is workforce, and throw in something in this page about Yavaline, microtransit, the use of vouchers, Because they do have programs where, people, it's kind of like a mini Uber system where you can get picked up and dropped off.
I didn't spot it, and I don't know if it's in there and I just didn't see it or not. Reference to the hub here right next door to City Hall, that's new since this
Right.
general plan was first drafted. So I think some reference to the hub would be good here.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I agree. There were several recommendations in the older version that talked about shared ride transportation, shared ride public transportation, micro transit. So I think maybe looking back at some of that earlier, because this doesn't even seem to suggest we have a public transit system now under Y Connect. Is that the name
It's
of the
Yavaline.
of the service? Yavaline.
Yavaline, yeah. It goes from Chino, Prescott Valley here. And also, I think we should include that the goal is to eliminate, it's an actual term, the empty bus syndrome, where people associate public transit with large empty buses just traveling around on these routes over and over with maybe a couple of homeless people sleeping in them. And that's not very functional, and so they have other strategies such as microtransit vouchers. But this is something that Y Plan needs to look at and update this map
Yeah.
too, because the map doesn't show their routes. And then also update their transit needs study. They got one from 2007 and then one from 2009, and I know they have more recent studies. They got a lot of studies to throw in there.
Generally, for this chapter, we did have SIMPO at the time look through it. But it has been a number of years, so we'll definitely have them relook at it and make sure that everything is up to date. And
Great, thanks.
Okay. You don't have to stand. You want to pull it,
all
get
right.
a chair?
I might subtly take my heels off. It's fine.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, you have to stand for the next 2 hours. We should all stand, actually. We do a lot of sitting. Okay, so going on to page 50. I couldn't make any sense out of this map. Maybe something a little more specific. It just shows these areas. And
And again, maybe this is something that SIMPO has an updated or a better graphic that they could share with us.
They very well could, yes.
oh, okay, so I guess that's it. Any more comments on our transit plan? Okay,
Record timing.
yeah, really. Ooh, open space. Okay, page 51. I'd add the element list. I'd add what element this is and put a number on it, a chapter number or element number, and maybe add open space and recreation because we're talking about, I don't know, maybe not, maybe just keep it simple, open space. We got I have a lot of notes here where we've, since we talked, about this general plan, open space, we've had a lot of progress, actually. I'd include on the first paragraph, I'd add the Watson Woods conservation easement to this because it is part of our open space. And then I'd mention our past sales tax in this first paragraph. It says past favorable economic circumstances. No, that wasn't it. It was our past sales tax that was passed by the voters that allowed for direct purchase. It was a sales tax, road tax. And combined with donated parcels, I don't think anyone's ever donated a parcel. Oh, Dr. Ascari donated that parcel out there. Bless his heart.
You know, we had the presentation in front of the council not too long ago about Prescott Creeks, that organization that is managing
Watson Woods.
Granite Creek as it flows towards Watson Lake.
Yeah.
To the extent of goal one, I think it'd be a nice strategy to include under there that we work with, support, whatever language y'all want to use, the efforts of organizations such as Prescott Creeks to
Right.
safeguard and manage our waterways and the land surrounding them.
Yeah. And then also, I'd include under strategy, I included like a separate strategy, enforce our 25% open space policy, because we've been pretty weak in that. And I have it on some other strategies that we need to actually revisit our open space policy and rewrite it, because it doesn't say usable functional open space, and it has some loopholes that allows people to, get away with medians in the middle of highways and detention basins and like a strip around the border of the property. It's not really usable. But that's something that I think we should do as a strategy to update the open space policy to include meaningful, public, usable open space and 25%, and enforce it, because we've been pretty lax in doing that. And then another strategy I think we should add is partner with the U.S. Forest Service with trails and recreation. And then we need to include, I don't know if it's a strategy, but under public and private open space, I think we should include a list of what we've accomplished recently, new acquisitions. The Glassford Dells Regional Park, Phase 1 and Phase 2. The Del Rio State Park. Sullivan's.
Was the city involved in Del Rio and Sullivan?
No, not at all.
Right.
But it's kind of in the area. What do you think? Could we include that? It's not really in the city, but it's kind of in our general plan area.
We could always see what the consultant thinks too,
Yeah.
about kind of accomplished projects and how that might tie in.
Yeah, maybe have a map that shows that it's a part of a whole system. It's not just, open space just doesn't stop at our city limits.
Right, I
It's
think there could be a
a
reference
regional effort.
coordinating or working with other local jurisdictions to further their goals of preserving open space and recreational assets to the extent that that falls to the benefit of Prescott and its citizens.
Yeah, use IGAs, collaborating with other entities to form a network of open space. So we're also, I think we should mention the Wild and Scenic River designation for the Upper Verde River and Sycamore Canyon, which is in the works, moving along slowly. And
Mayor, you mentioned needing a strategy for the open space plan, and I'm just looking ahead to page 54, and there is a strategy under open space policy goals and strategies. Strategy 1.1, develop a plan and or a policy for open space preservation, acquisition, use, and maintenance. Do we have currently an open space policy? on the books?
Well, we do.
Yeah.
But it doesn't talk about maintenance or anything like that. It's just
So maybe,
requires 25% designation. It was written like 20 years ago or something.
on this strategy 1.1 on page 54, update
Yeah,
current open
think I might
space
have that.
policy and plan to include
yeah.
functional 25% open space
Functional,
requirement.
meaningful, public.
So do we know if the recreation master plan process that's underway is going to include open space as an element?
I don't believe we know at this time, but we can certainly coordinate with them to make sure
Right.
all our efforts are captured.
Yeah, I think it's more of a master plan for just the Granite Dells area. I don't know. Is it for all of our parks?
I can imagine it would be. I know that they're in the preliminary phases for the master planning, but I don't know if you have any. No, yeah.
I think it is comprehensive. It's not just limited.
It's certainly going to be a full master plan, all encompassing to my understanding. The level of detail, I'm not sure if has been fleshed out at this time.
And then also one of the requirements is an open space map. But, and we should include the list. We should talk about, I think I do later on, develop an open space list of properties that are protected in the charter with Prop 484. I think we mentioned that later on in this topic. Let's see. So any more comments on page 51?
Well, this is just another look at another strategy. So there was another goal 3 that was in an earlier version of this plan, which in the open space section, which was maintain the biological, cultural, visual, and recreational integrity of protected tracts of open space. And it had 6 different strategies associated with that. And I think there's some value at looking at that goal 3 from the earlier version. And
Include those strategies, put them back in.
yeah,
I agree.
it may not be all of those strategies. It talks about revegetation of disturbed areas, but it does talk about working with stakeholders to reduce damage to open space and lakes and ensuring wildlife and trail corridors are conserved through open space, maintain conservation of habitats and ecosystems. Yeah, I just think this just says we have open space, but doesn't speak to its conservation and protection.
Plus, if we throw that in, it might help us get grants too if we mention it. Because, the grant writers want to make sure that things jive with our general plan. So I think that's good. I agree. Mary, what do you think?
I don't have it in front of me, and I would only say that from the discussion,
It has pictures of the pronghorn, so it's definitely in. I mean,
I guess I would only
you
be
got to include that picture too.
I guess I would only be
pronghorns.
concerned if some of the strategies were a bit amorphous
Yeah.
and not something that people could look at and say, oh yeah, we could do that. If it's talking about let's just preserve Eden, that doesn't seem to be much of an action item. But to include that goal and the strategies within what is provided to the consultant, and maybe have the consultant comment on whether or not they're too squishy to include or could be tightened up for.
So much for the skinny version if we add this.
Is that a planning
Well,
term,
that's right.
squishy?
Well, frankly, that was my first comment. Was
be
going to
the
be
straw.
we don't want to balloon it out with
Straw that breaks.
with nice ideas that aren't specific action items.
Yeah, but this is very important. And plus, I noticed the workforce housing section was really, really wordy. We could probably cut back on that and flesh this out a little
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, it was pretty extensive. Also, one of our strategies should be to remove our parks and open space from game management units, which are hunting sections, because our new Parks and Rec director brought up the fact that Glassford Hill is still in a hunting part of Unit 19, so people can hunt up there on Glassford Hill, which is kind of dangerous if we're extending trails and it's part of a regional park. So maybe that could be a strategy. You know, we're not banning hunting by any means, but just removing our parks and open space from game management units, GMUs. And so it talks about public and private open space. We do have public and private open space. Unfortunately, private open space is somewhat controversial because it allows a developer to create personal compounds on his development and call it private open space, and then the city has to maintain it. So I don't know if we want to even have private open space. I think it should be public, or if there is private open space, it has to be maintained by the private property owners. We might want to put that in because that was a big, there's no designated open space in Depot Ranch. It's all SPC zoning. And, but I do know that they plan on having some private open space that'll be maintained by the city, but not accessed by the public, which is kind of strange.
Excuse me. A lot of those could be, really with those bigger projects, there's a lot of different negotiations that are happening and captured in a development agreement. So a lot of it might play into that as well of.
Like maybe future development agreements say that if you're going to have private open space, you have to maintain it yourself. And it shouldn't count towards the 25% public open space, because if it's, your house is, your own personal backyard is your private open space, when you think about it. So we can ask the consultant about that, because, this is one of the elements in our state statutes. Okay, 51. Let's see, 56. Okay, so we talk about public open space. And I think we need to mention our new Proposition 484 that protects our open space in the charter. It was a citizen's petition, and it prevents our open space from being leased, transferred, or sold without a vote of the public. Since it's this open space was bought with taxpayer dollars, it should be the taxpayers that decide what to do with it. So I think that's something we should include. And then it talks about in the second paragraph, some existing preserves include the hill. And I didn't know, in areas east of Thumb Butte, Boyle de Bousque. I've never heard of Boyle de Bousque. Does anyone know where that is?
I can find out with a quick Google search.
Yeah, we need to make sure that that's, I've never heard of it. Sounds interesting. And we need to eliminate the hill, because it doesn't really talk about which hill we're talking about, unless it means Glassford Hill.
I wouldn't think so, because later in that sentence, they refer to the new regional park and preserve,
Yeah.
which I'm assuming that's referring to Glassford.
Yeah, we should name that too. Thank you for bringing that up. I have my notes, Glassford Dells Regional Park and Preserve.
The Boyle de Bousque Open Space Preserve is off of White Spar Road, just a few miles south of Montezuma.
Really? Wow. I don't know. I think we might have forgot to put that in the. Is it in there? Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't think I've ever been out there. I'm going to have to figure it out. Yeah.
It's a secret spot.
And thank you to the Boyles and the DeBoos for, maybe they donated it, and that's why it's named after them. Some of the most scenic and unique areas within Prescott are privately owned.
Before we get off that one sentence, do we know for a fact what is being referred to as the hill?
Just need to eliminate it.
If we can't figure that out, we will be sure to eliminate it.
Maybe Capitol Hill. The city strives to provide public access to publicly held open space areas by entering into joint use agreements with private property owners. And yeah, and so we definitely need to include that we need to update our open space policy. And then there's, I think, a typo here where in the last paragraph, state trust lands are held in trust for 13 designated beneficiaries, blah, blah, blah. For development may ultimately be sold for development or leased. I think it's sold for development or leased, not and leased for grazing. And or maybe. Currently, these lands are temporary and unprotected view sheds unless steps are taken towards conservation. So I don't see any changes there. So that's 52 and 53, open space policy. And this map, of course, nobody can read. So we need to have an exhibit in the back with the maps of our open space recreation areas. And this was a pretty comprehensive open space policy statement, but it's not codified. So that's why we need to update our statement, our policy. Let's see, that was 53. And moving on to page 54. It says annexation should. I changed that to must. I think that's a little stronger than should, but better than may. Annexation must have an open space component to provide wildlife. And I said to provide a nexus in exchange for city water, sewer, and services. That's part, an annexation is a negotiation, and about the only thing we can negotiate from a private property developer is open space in exchange for water, sewer, and city services. So I think we should put something in there about annexations or a negotiation. And open space is used to create a nexus, which is we get this, something that we get back for the public in exchange for city services. New open space assets are identified during the annexation process. And open space may be maintained through intergovernmental, and I'd like to include development agreements, because development agreements have a lot of language in them about open space. And then under open space policy goals and strategies, under goal 1, preserve appropriate open space in and around the city. And then that's where, like you said, update current open space policy to include meaningful and usable public open space.
Is there some kind of codification that we could do or should do to put teeth into a policy such as an open space policy?
We could actually put it in the charter.
Yeah, I think we have.
I'm looking over at
Yeah.
legal. Is there something, so there's the charter edition. Any other routes for codifying a policy like that?
We could certainly look into a code or an ordinance as well.
Maybe the land development code, we could put that in the LDC
Sure.
and put it in the charter.
Yeah.
If it's in the charter, then it needs, voter approval to get in and voter approval to,
For what?
for an open space policy.
I'm
To give
thinking-
it more teeth.
Yeah, I'm thinking particularly about the ordinance that codified the preservation guidelines. That was the way of putting some teeth, theoretically putting some teeth in the
Right.
historic guidelines, because we ran through the ordinance that said those guidelines apply. So maybe something like that, unless you think there's benefit just from a PR perspective of running it through the charter and having the voters vote up or down on it.
Yeah. But first of all, I was going to ask legal to get us a copy of the open space policies, if they can find them. I've got them filed away somewhere.
Yeah, I was just looking for them because I know that I've been looking at them as well, and for some reason I can't pull them up right now. So I can
Okay.
definitely get that for our next
Yeah,
meeting.
maybe give us all a copy
That'd be great.
so we know where to start. Consider the creation of an open space advisory commission. That might be a good idea.
Well, as I recall, that was clearly the motivation behind some of the earlier acquisitions at the turn of the century that we pursued.
Yep, that's right. They had a list of what to preserve and everything.
I wonder if that original strategy was undertaken before 484 was championed and passed, thinking that the advisory commission would be something to push that forward, that or something similar.
Yeah.
What would you think they would be advising on now? Future
Oh, yeah.
acquisitions?
Yeah. But going back to strategy 1.1, it says develop a plan or policy. We've already got one in place. We just need to update it and enforce it, basically.
And an advisory commission could be a good way to expand citizen engagement in both examining the policy as well as seeing that it's being managed and pursued.
Yeah.
And on strategy 1.1, in addition to swapping out develop for update, since we do have a current policy, maybe include a line in there to reference codifying the policy, either by ordinance or charter amendment.
Code, ordinance code. Yeah, there's many different strategies. And then it says the creation, going back to the Open Space Advisory Commission, would we do what do you think about open space and wildlife? I know we're getting ahead of ourselves. I know there's a private entity doing wildlife.
Right.
Should we just keep this
It's
to open space?
CAWA, Citizen Alliance.
Central
Wildlife
Arizona Wildlife
Yeah.
Alliance, yeah.
Alliance.
Maybe we should just keep this to open space because it's more in line with the statutes. And we can do wildlife, we'll be moving on to them too. So that was 54.
And under strategy 1.2, it obviously reflects as the next page will on wildlife corridor, but strategy 1.2 under open space speaks to continued wildlife and trail connectivity.
Right.
And frankly, just by its
Wildlife
nature,
corridors.
an Open Space Advisory Commission is going to address the wildlife component of open space. And I can just imagine somebody from the Central Arizona Wildlife Alliance would be up for volunteering to be on such a commission. Just to get those.
Are you volunteering people
No,
without their permission?
Well, suggestion. I'm just putting it
okay.
out there.
Okay. And then let's see, that was 54. Then we have page 55, wildlife corridors. There you go. This is excellent. I love the picture. I can tell what those animals are. And growth challenges, growth of new subdivisions and other developments alter wildlife habitats. And I should say, I'd like to include especially pronghorn habitat, because now there's a push to save the pronghorns now that they've pretty much are on their last leg.
So I have reached out to Kawa, and this may be deemed appropriate or inappropriate, but so I have some proposed suggested changes that would take us a longer time to agree to today, but I'm going to pass this along to the whole introduction, because so much has happened from when this was originally produced to the awareness of wildlife corridors
Oh, thank you.
to a number of us. And then also have,
Do you have?
So this would
I've
be
got an extra
page,
copy.
Okay. Thank
this would be page 55.
Right.
Just insert.
And then under wildlife corridor goals, if I recall correctly, there were several goals with a number of different strategies in an earlier version, and this is some new goals. You got that? You have that? Okay, thank you. So just because of the importance of wildlife corridors, increasing importance, I think, to our community, this just puts a little more substance as opposed to, simply the possible initiatives that could be pursued language.
Thank you for doing that extra work. I support this 100%. You probably have it in your notes here that you just gave us, but under goal, I'd like to have a goal 2. Negotiate combined open space and wildlife corridors in annexations, with annexation development agreements, because we have all these wildlife corridors that go over private land, and that's when you should be negotiating.
Really good point.
During an
yeah.
annexation is when you have your one chance to negotiate, because an annexation, all it is a negotiation. And that's when we have some leverage. We can leverage our water and get some wildlife corridors, because after the annexation, the development agreement is signed, it's too late. So I'd like to do that as a goal.
For clarification too, Councilman Grady, the second sheet you passed out, was that strategies for the already existing goal 1?
Correct, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, that was page 55. Moving on to 56, digital connectivity, which is very important nowadays. It's very important in economic development. I think we should include that in the first sentence. It says a vital role in education, healthcare, business. And I think instead of saying business, I'd just say economic development, civic engagement, safety, and everyday life. And
Because the next sentence obviously identifies Arizona's Economic Development Group, the Arizona
Right.
Commerce Authority. So,
right,
good point.
digital equity plan. And so I didn't have any other additions except include in the goals stealth technology and co-location, kind of reiterate that. Just to make sure everybody is connected. And we might want to include public safety, in that first sentence. Now that I look at it, digital connectivity under civic engagement, safety, we should have public safety, not just safety. It's important for police and fire communications, 911. Let's see, that's any more comments? We can go over to the next page, which is a giant picture. of Bucky O'Neill with houses in front of him. That's scary. Are these tiny houses on the courthouse square? Is that it? Using space there on the courthouse? It is workforce housing. I think they're on little wheels. You can hook them up to your car. Okay, so that's, the next page is 58. Great places and neighborhoods. I wanted to delete that whole thing. I mean, it sounds great, but land planning and land use element is the serious one. So I'd say land use and land planning, and list the number of the in the state statute.
I like that growth areas is in that lower category, and if you want to replace the title, I would do land use planning and growth areas, or land use, comma, planning and growth areas. Because
Land
obviously there's
use
land use
planning.
planning within our own community, but obviously we need to also look at growth areas from a land use and planning standpoint.
Okay. And then the first sentence, it's important to have an important first sentence on these paragraphs here. It says Prescott's land use base comprises of the typical residential. Well, no, it doesn't. Prescott's land use base comprises of residential, commercial. I don't think we have the typical, which would be mass graded cracker boxes, mass produced. To me, that would be typical. So I think we should just remove typical, just say land use base consists of residential, commercial, and industrial use types. And then later on in the paragraph, 13 National Register historic districts, creeks, trails, lakes, and they throw an airport in with creeks, trails, and lakes. I think that doesn't fit in. I think I would replace the airport with our golf course. Something a little more compatible. And then on the middle paragraph, the second paragraph, these attributes define, the E is missing from define, just throw that in. And then we talk about infill and renovation, existing structures. I think that's repurposing. I think that's a great idea. Preserving, repurposing and preserving. And then the last, at the bottom of the third paragraph, I'd like to include our manufactured home parks, because Prescott originally is a summer community. People would come up and stay in, I did that when we lived in the valley. We'd come up and stay in a mobile home park on the weekends. And then these mobile home parks morphed into full-time year-round residences. And they're very important for our senior low-income houses, and also for workforce housing, because a lot of them have RV spaces where workers park their fifth wheels while they're working at the hospital. So I think we need to update this to include and recognize also Prescott is home to many manufactured home parks offering affordable and workforce housing. And they're pretty high density. I mean, I was just this weekend over at, it's called, it's off of Copper Basin Road. It's 501 Copper Basin Road. It's called Prescott Gardens. And there's 80 units in there.
White's Bar and...
Yeah, it's just right in there kind of behind Safeway.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And they have veterans in there, and churches will move homeless people in there, get to give them a permanent home. So they're very flexible, and I think we kind of overlook these things. And a lot of them are being bought up by the hedge funds and private equity funds that own billions of dollars in portfolios across the nation. That's really too bad because they used to be owned by local people. But I think we should include these, and it's kind of a niche that provides very affordable housing.
Yeah, I think we need to make sure that that's in the workforce housing section too.
Yes.
And I don't remember that it is, but it might be. But
Yeah. And then I think we need to have the actual verbatim statute, Prop 2447. It's not a prop, I'm sorry, House Bill 2447. And put that in there as part, because it really does affect our land planning and our land use, where it allows community development to administratively make decisions on site plans, development plans, preliminary plats, final plats. What do you call it when you join lots together, adjoining lots?
Revision of plat.
I wonder if it's appropriate to put that in, though, since that statute is still kind of in flux, since there's the discussion, at least some people are trying to limit the scope of that to
Right.
cities over 75,000, which we would be spared that.
But it was effective January
Oh, yeah.
1st, and I think we should put that in. We can always take it out if they're successful this year. They may not be successful, but let's put it in and use that as an example of the Arizona State Legislature, I shouldn't say interfering, but using their authority in local land planning issues. And also say that it eliminates public input and transparency because it removes any public hearings or meetings by city council and planning and zoning. Because it says right here in the red, we need to eliminate this one. It says right here in red, involving residents in decision-making processes is important to ensure all interests are considered and a broad consensus can be sought. We just need to delete that whole thing and replace it with HB. It's now a statute, 2447. It's kind of ironic. So it just eliminates any oversight, transparency, public participation, or participation by your elected officials in what happens in your backyard.
Okay, I'm just going to say, that's a bit of an editorial comments for
No,
a general
this is
plan,
legal.
but
This is legal. This is a part of
Oh, yeah.
this is our comments. It's true.
It's all going to be part of what a consultant's going to take to and
Yeah.
and kind of organize from there. So
He may water it down a little.
they'll at least for sure know where
Yeah.
you all stand.
But we definitely need to take what this thing in red, which is kind of ironic.
well, sometimes a general plan should identify threats to maintaining the open space, threats to X, Y, or Z, and threats to land use planning.
certainly it's a threat to local control.
And oversight, and it takes away the neighborhood's say in anything because they won't know about it till it's too late.
Oh, no, I'm not disagreeing with the editorial comment. I'm just saying it's an editorial comment.
Well
This is
founded.
very objective. It's not subjective. This is not anecdotal comments. This is real life. This really happened. It's a statute. And these are the consequences of when you have a state legislature trying to be a city council, I guess. You can take that one out.
My mic's off.
And then we move on to aggregates. And oddly, this is part of the statute. They make a big deal out of aggregates because dirt and rock is very important in our construction industry and in making roads concrete. And so I think we should say aggregates are essential for concrete construction, roads, and cinders. Where do you think cinders come from? For in road safety, we should throw that in, road construction and road safety. And so we have, should we say something about gravel pits? Because, they're so controversial, but we just need to, I think that's what's in here, because nobody wants it in their backyard, but we need to have a source of gravel and aggregates. So they talk about our one gravel pit that's out there in Granite Creek, just outside by the air park, the industrial park. So let's see, we flip that over to 59. And that's about all I have to say about aggregates. Any more comments?
No.
Yeah, it says, however, state and federal and state laws allow mining of aggregates without local approvals, because I think it's considered essential.
And I'm imagining that law is written back when mining
Yes.
and it was a much bigger thing than it is currently.
Yeah.
But there it is on the books.
Yeah. Yeah. And, we have we're very proud of our mining history. It actually settled the West, was the mining. And then we move into, we have another map. We need to take this map and turn it into an exhibit so people can read it. Yeah, City of Prescott future land map.
And so just to clarify, in case someone is watching, so this is the accurate, most recent version of what we were looking at when one of the proposals came forward in June, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
This boundary.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's actually a different version because it shows all the little residential streets on it. This is kind of a hard to read version, but it's actually the official one is the City of Prescott future land and water use map. So this isn't really the right map anyway, so we can just eliminate this. It's pretty hard to discern what.
So to clarify, there's another map that had land and water use as the title?
There is another map. It's in the 2015. It's basically unchanged in the 2015 plan because this one has that big blue box at the top with the yellow is actually the airport specific area planning boundary, the ASAP. So it's got airport stuff in here, and so it's kind of misnamed anyway, and you can't read it.
I will go back and check the 2015 plan, but I was thinking that it was just the future land use map. For the general plan version, we didn't incorporate the water as part of at least the general plan map. There may be a map that does have both together, but for the purposes of the general plan, I think we just had it as the land use map. There is a larger version, and I know we talked about it a little bit before, but just in case anyone is watching online, we were going to save kind of all of map detail for the very end because there's a lot to cover there. So I'll check on the 2015 plan, but I do think it was just the land use map, and then we can kind of clarify it when we're ready to tackle all the maps.
Yeah, we have to make sure, we're planning an extension of the runway. We have to make sure that all our maps include that the runway is being extended to 10,000 linear feet. Because I don't think this includes that. Because that does, when you extend your runway, that's going to affect all the land use planning at the end of it on that northeast side.
And I know we did include the airport as part of the conversations with the most map the most recent map changes. But again, as we move forward in this process, we'll be definitely reaching back out to them to make sure that everything is incorporated as they're expanding.
Yeah.
So then the next categories of very low density, low medium density, and those are just standard descriptions of what constitutes
Yes.
that
yeah.
particular classification, and it relates back to the map.
Correct. Yes.
So planning hierarchy. Wow. Hierarchy of planning layers. It says Prescott also uses SAPs. And I think they're talking about city council, maybe. I don't know. But we need to say what that acronym is, which is specific area plans. So we should say what that acronym is so people know what we're talking about. So we got the Prescott East Area Plan, including, instead of the nearby commercial area, we should just say the. And then they talk about Willow Lake South Area Plan. And then the third and largest is the airport specific area plan.
So this is directly related, but not related to amending language. Candidly, before I read this, I didn't know about the Willow Lake or Prescott East plan. When we think about future council onboarding, it might be useful to have some overview of that for council members. Most of them, like me, aren't going to really realize how much planning activities we have in these areas and plans that we should be adhering to, et cetera, et cetera. So just
And then a map would be helpful too.
Just a thought.
A map of these SAPs would be good too. So it says they're much more focused on culture and community cohesiveness and less about future land use planning. So that's 59. And let's see, 52. Moving on to 60.
I'm sorry, before we get off on 59, the neighborhood level plans, do we have a number involved? Do we know how many neighborhood plans there are?
Offhand, I don't, but we have that information.
We might want to include those.
It would be
certainly.
a good thing. For my purposes, just as Patrick just mentioned, not knowing that there were such a things as the area plans referenced in 1, 2, 3, it would probably not be a bad thing to list out. I mean,
'Cause you don't
hopefully we're
know.
not talking about 30 neighborhood plans, but if there's a half a dozen, like the Gale Gardner.
The Gale
or
Gardner
West-
one's been, people didn't even know that existed till the people in Gale Gardner,
Right.
actually in the plan that developed it, brought it to our attention. So maybe we should use that as an example. Neighborhood area plans like the Gale Gardner neighborhood plan. Throw that in and then mention some of the other ones so that people know that they're out there.
Right, so if it's a relatively small number, maybe list them all.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good catch. Yeah, we should mention for example, the Gale Gardner plan. Thank you. So that was 64. Okay, now moving on to page 60, future land use designations and map. I have a question on the first paragraph, the last sentence. However, in no case shall the designated residential density be less than 1 DU, dwelling unit per acre, per ARS 9-461.06. Could you include like a summary of that statute, what it says?
Like further expand upon it.
Yeah,
Yep.
What does it say? 'Cause
Yeah.
I don't think people are going to be looking it up. And then we have recreation, related facilities used for outdoor for active outdoor recreation, that's okay. And then we talk about some more open space. Open space areas are passive recreational land. I think it's very important that we put that word passive in there because that's in our IGA with Glassford Dells. And we have some friends to the east that have a hard time with that word passive, understanding what it means. Or complying. And then we have mixed use, commercial. I have under commercial are we going to be talking about industrial, manufacturing, technology? Are those, should those also be included along with commercial?
We can add those in there.
Yeah. Because this is mixed use, commercial. I don't know if we get into,
So we have some more of
we
that
get into it
later in the
on.
economic development chapter, but
But I think it's important that we include, mention it, commercial, industrial, manufacturing, and technology.
putting that as that separate expanded category.
Yeah, just mention it some, as part of the heading there. And then the last sentence is residential uses of all density categories are permitted but subject to density and buffering standards set out by the overlying zoning districts. I had a hard time. Is there any way we could rephrase that so it's a little easier to understand?
Yes, we sure can.
What does that mean? Residential uses of all density categories are permitted.
It's touching on all of our different zoning districts and saying that the density is allowed, and then further going into like the buffer is going to be dependent on the zoning district.
Okay.
Buffering depending on kind of more use base, but we can clean up that language.
Yeah, standards set out by the overlying zoning district. And then we have commercial and employment designation.
So that's where manufacturing and industrial category comes in.
Would that be where we would put that? Because it says warehousing and industrial uses are generally appropriate. Maybe that should be, this should all be joined together, maybe.
It seems to me the distinction between commercial and commercial/employment is that in the latter, residential is not to be included in that designation, where residential could be included within the commercial designation.
Yes, that is correct.
Should we say something about how our zoning is inclusive and not exclusive? We have it like business general includes multifamily. A lot of people don't know that. Maybe just make a note.
I think that we can incorporate that the sentence you thought needed a little bit of cleaning up, I think is trying to get at that. So we can
okay,
kind
yeah.
of incorporate it into
Because
that.
people understand that. At least if I can understand it, I think most people probably, can zero in on the inclusive versus exclusive, and we're inclusive. See that, Patrick? We're inclusive.
That's correct, ma'am.
Yeah. It's in our general plan. Okay, moving on to page 61. We talk about, do we have to have a very low density? Can we just say low density residential, 1 DU per AC? Is that a legal term? Have to have very?
I know that as it went through planning and zoning, there was not very low density. Then as it went through council, it was desired in the areas that was very low density to add back in.
The word very?
Yeah, I got a little lost in the whole. Sorry, Chelsea, can you?
Because to me, 1 acre, 1 dwelling unit per acre isn't really very, very low. I mean, that'd be like 1 house per 40 acres to me would be low.
Right. So, Chelsea Walton, Community Development Director. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for the question. The category was hotly debated, as Alex alluded to. Per the statute, as you saw mentioned earlier, there is a requirement that we have to allow at least 1 dwelling unit per acre.
Okay.
Now, what was proposed through the General Plan Committee and Planning and Zoning was, we obviously know from a planning purpose that a lot of those properties will likely develop with more density.
Right.
So we advocated through those and discussed it through those committees that we combine into a low to medium density and change that category to 1 to 7 dwelling units. However, if council members recall, there was public comment from particular individuals advocating that no, we need to have the very low in there. I know from conversations with the James family that they desired to see their properties with a land use designation not the very low, because again, they know they're going to want more density than that. So the last conversation from council was, no, we do want the very low in there.
Right.
And so that's a little bit of the history on that one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember because we needed to keep the very low density to the east, the northeast sector of the plan, because to protect our runway extension.
We did talk about
We
it
didn't want to increase it. We wanted to
related
keep
to the
it.
airport, right?
Because once you increase it, you can't decrease it.
Right. It seems to me a good thing to keep in as an option for those particular circumstances, like around the airport, that it would be beneficial to have it slotted in very low. And if some developer came along later and purchased it and wanted to up the density, well, that's what plan amendments are all about. They can come and
Public.
seek a major plan amendment.
It's a very public process, yes.
Okay, so that's, and then we'll just keep low, medium density residential, 2 to 7 dwelling units per acre. So that's page 61. And let's see, then we're moving on to page 62. High, medium density residential. I didn't have any changes on this page. Any comments?
No.
Okay. And then 63. Goal 4, I have a big no. Had some issues with it. See what you guys think. Support flexibility in setbacks, parking requirements, site coverage, and height. You know, this is what all the developers want exceptions for. And so I think I would like to just eliminate parking requirements, because that's what gets us in trouble. Remember with the Marina Street project, they were going to have some so-called designated senior housing in there, and then they were going to, I guess we have a code that says if you have senior housing, you don't have to have parking. You're exempt from parking.
It's a parking reduction.
It's a parking reduction. And unfortunately, my experience with seniors is they'll still have cars, they have family visiting, they have caretakers coming, they have deliveries, they have transport taking in places, ambulances, I mean, volunteers, I mean, you name it, you can get somebody, especially if they're disabled. They have a lot of traffic, so I just, you know, we could probably consider it on a case-by-case basis, but to just kind of throw this in here, I do not support deviation from our parking codes and ordinances, and that's what got us in trouble with the Whiskey Row Hotel, and also with the height. You know, I just don't think we need to mess with our height.
And if there's a desire to include that kind of flexibility, I would soften the goal and remove support for maybe consider flexibility in exchange for other considerations, and just take out support, as that implies we're on board with this
Yeah.
idea, but we will consider it. I mean, you can always consider things.
Yeah, because that's when everyone will be parking out on the street and in the neighbors, space in front of their frontage.
So,
So maybe
question. Question. I don't understand what these goals actually refer to. It obviously doesn't refer to medium high density residential alone, correct?
I think that it was, and I can pull up the March plan where it was meatier and more goals and strategies, and so this was just kind of the compilation of what was remaining after that.
So these goals would apply to this entire chapter?
Just land use in general, yeah.
Okay, land use in general. Well, I agree with what the mayor was suggesting.
Yeah, we just have to stand firm on parking and height. And site coverage, is that like the footprint of the building? And, I can see flexibility and setbacks.
The other ones are much more general in nature, and this looks like somebody requesting a specific set of requirements to do something that might not be compatible.
Yeah, it's can be used to our detriment. It can be exploited. And then historic preservation. Why is that section in the land use, land planning element? Is that, should that be in some other, didn't we already visit historic preservation? And it talks about indigenous people and the post-archaic period, whenever that was, Spanish explorers. I mean, do we need to include all this history in there? And then we go on to page 64, and it talks about the founding and, John Goodwin. I mean, do we have to include all that in our general plan? I mean, shouldn't that be something in?
There's under the introduction is physical setting and history, so maybe that's where you're feeling you've seen it a little bit before. We can just
Yeah.
flag it as another thing that the
Kind of
consultant
redundant.
weighs in on.
Yeah, kind of redundant. I mean, if you want, there's lots of books. You can go online if you want to do the history. I don't think we need this in here. So maybe condense this and move it into the other section in the introduction. And I'd like to say, and then just start under, this is historic preservation, but, move that into the introduction. But I think this is a good, eliminate to this day, but over 800 National Register properties reside within the city limits. And then we get into more of the land use. To help protect these properties, Prescott has established 13 local districts and 13 national historic districts. So I think we should just start there. These guidelines are titled in the Prescott Historical Preservation Master Plan, which we are redoing, so we might want to include that, which is in the process of being updated. We're in the process of updating it to better preserve the districts. So just kind of update that. And let's see, that's 64. Moving on to 65. This is pretty detailed. Maybe we can kind of condense this, but I think it's important that we talk about SHPO and classified as a CLG, Certified Local Government.
65.
Yeah, I'm on 65, yeah. But kind of everything on the left side of the page, that first column, we could include some of it, but it's pretty wordy. But we could include preservation can also play an important role in putting housing within greater reach of all residents. Talking about renovation and renovating existing structures on smaller lots. Maybe just condense this. But I think at the last paragraph, when we talk about CLGs and SHPO, we need to have a final paragraph. Also, decisions made by the Prescott Preservation Committee and City Council concerning historic districts must be defensible in court, can no longer be subjective. Am I getting that right? We need objective evidence-based decisions.
Yeah, and I think some of that, and I think maybe Alex can speak to it as well, is when we have different guidelines that are within the preservation, what they're looking at for, say, design, things like that that are subjective. When we can narrow it down to something more objective as saying, are you using this type of material? Is it this type of facing or something like that? That allows it to be a lot more defensible from a legal perspective.
Yeah.
Once you put in the subjective, then you're leaving it up to what a judge believes one way or another. So I think that's kind of what we were talking about previously.
Yeah, that is correct. Thanks, Elaine.
I'd like to go back to the paragraphs in the first column. I do think if we're starting with to this day over 800 National Register properties, to that, then the next paragraphs, the next 3 or 4 paragraphs before it gets to the SHPO paragraph, they really lay the foundation. So I think it's really well done in terms of how it educates the public. Here's where we started with our first historic preservation master plan, why it's important to the community. It's an organizing force in our land use principles, plays an important role in the next paragraph, rehab and renovation of existing structures. I think it lays a nice foundation for, why this section of the land use plan, needs to be reckoned with and looked at.
So we shouldn't do any cliff notes. We should just keep it the way it is. I'm fine with it.
In several areas, it's interesting. We cut strategies and goals, but we left a lot of the introductory pieces generally intact. And I think because general plans also serve as an educational tool to the public in general. Those of you who are out there listening today.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what do you think, Mary?
I think it's a little much, just by volume. I don't know that we
Is this squishy?
I don't know that we need to have a dissertation on prehistory, and really even history.
I agree with that. Yeah.
I would kind of start with today, and go forward from there.
I mean, the third paragraph is pretty redundant, I think, because we're going to cover the tourist economy in the tourism economy section.
Compared to the master plan, this is pretty short and sweet.
Yeah.
It could be another thing we have the consultant take a look at and see, how beneficial is it to have too much in there or not enough, and what that might look like.
Yeah.
Right, I think it's great information, but I just don't know that it belongs in the general plan. But the Historic Preservation Master Plan, I think that's a great place for the educational element of how we got to be what we are.
Yeah. And, the original historic plan did have a lot of leeway, had a lot of subjectiveness in it. But I guess times are different. Beauty is not in the eye of the beholder anymore. So, but I do think we need to put in something about how now it has to be defensible in court, unfortunately. So that was 65, moving on to 66.
You know, speaking of that last, we may want to stick that where we talk about this is on page 65, the first full paragraph. Prescott's first and current historic preservation master plan was adopted, blah, blah. An update is currently underway with a goal, maybe adding to there, with the goal of ensuring that the guidelines are objective enough to allow for modifications or development in keeping with state statute or SHPO or some reference to what people have to modify themselves to. So that just may be a good spot to stick it in there, that the update is currently underway. Here's the goal of the update, which is to make it clear what it means to do things in a preservation district.
It also could, on the page after that is the preservation cultural assets, goals and strategies. There's the one goal and strategies. Maybe it's something we could kind of incorporate into that.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Strategy 1.2, where it says complete the master plan update, including blah, blah,
In
whatever,
accordance with-
as Kathy was referring to, objective standards and defensible should a conflict arise.
And strategy 1, develop a 5-year plan for Prescott's historic districts. Are we doing that, or what does that mean?
I think it's more for actionable. I mean, if you think of the historic preservation master plan was 30 years ago, this just creates more of a kind of recurring way
So
of
every
updating
5
that
years
inventory
Yeah, okay.
to keep it fresher, instead of doing a whole master plan update, just to kind of keep the inventory up to date.
Do we have that undergoing right now?
Not right now.
Or not yet? Okay. But that's
That'll
on
be in
the,
the master plan probably to,
It'll probably be derived out. The master plan will update everything in the inventory, and then we'll have, a 5-year plan kind of going from there.
okay, but it's on the to-do list?
Yes.
Thank you.
and then strategy 1.4, it's kind of awkward. It says, consider enhanced protections for archaeological resources. That doesn't really belong in there. It makes me think of, Anasazi ruins and pottery.
And even in the master plan, we are going to have an archaeological section to kind of touch
Okay.
on this in terms of protections and actual regulations from there. We're not taking action in that regard, but it could be something that's incorporated later if desired.
Because indeed, isn't that part of what's slowing down there was a line that was a water line or a sewer line, I can't remember which, along Willow Lake Road, because they ran into some ruins or some archaeological elements that they had to stop and protect in some way.
I'm not familiar specifically, but I'm seeing
We're getting a nodding of the heads
Yes,
from Chelsea. Okay.
that is correct.
Yeah, I think that's good, archaeological resources, because we do have a lot of those around in the city.
We do.
Yeah. Okay, that's page 66, 67. Recreation's in the land use element, so we have parks and recreation inventory. Great picture. Who is that hiking? My.
I don't know. She's a
Is that
cutie.
somebody from Parks and Rec?
It's me. No, I'm kidding.
I wish I looked like that. And then in the second column, it says our dual purpose for water supply. I think we should say portfolio and recreation, because the Willow Lake and Watson Lake reservoirs we don't really drink out of them, so they're technically not part of the supply, but they're in our portfolio for overdraft, recharge. And then under Parks and Rec activities, it's pretty, they list a whole list of things here. I'd like to including field and court sports and city leagues. You know, we have a lot of city leagues, but that wasn't included. And then it talks about Arizona Game and Fish. I think they're a wonderful partner. And then maybe this would be since we're talking about game and fish, reiterating removing game management units, removing our parks and open space and trails from game management units due to increased use by humans. And they talk about crawdads and bass. I don't know, discussions include slot limits for the bass population. I don't really think we're a big bass fishing area here. Is there any way we can check on that? But I'd like to, in removing crawdads to assist fish reproduction, I don't know if we're doing that either.
I don't know, does this mean that we're doing it or that Arizona?
Game and Fish.
Fish are doing
Maybe they're
this?
doing it. And then they continue to stock trout in area lakes. That's nice. And then I'd like to include that they, Arizona Game and Fish manage the pronghorn herd on Glassford Hill. We might want to include the pronghorns in this.
You know, I wonder if we shouldn't include a line, and I think this is Arizona Game and Fish that does this, closes trails for when the
Peregrines?
raptors are breeding.
Oh, yeah.
The peregrines, I think, up on Thumb Butte.
Yeah.
And the
Is that,
bald eagles
Yeah.
out around Lynx Lake and Watson Lake.
yeah, is that Game and Fish, or is that just something our Parks and Rec people do?
Yeah, this verbiage came from Rec Services.
So we
The
do that?
information.
We're the ones who closed down the breeding areas?
Oh, close down the breeding areas?
Well,
no,
the trails
access,
and the
trails
access
that go up.
around the breeding areas.
Yeah. Because we might want to include that, because that's something very important we do. Well, Thumb Butte is actually Forest Service. Right. And then with the peregrines, and then the peregrines on Granite Mountain, that's a wilderness area, so that's national park, national forest. And but Watson Lake, do we close down parts of Watson Lake for the eagles? Because I know they closed down parts of. Yeah,
I know
Lynx Lake.
we put up signs in the riparian area, because I know in a recent article in the Courier, Eric Moore was complaining that despite the signs saying stay out of this area, that certain kayakers were just paddling past the signs and going right up
those
to where the eagles were
kayakers.
nesting.
Yeah, we got to, so maybe include something about closing down the trails to protect breeding couples or whatever, breeding
Raptors,
Species.
yes.
species. Got to get back to nature. Okay, that's. Yeah, 66, that was 67.
Nobody needs to see that kind of thing.
Moving on to page 68, I didn't have any changes there under their goals and strategies.
Just I mean, they'll get this for sure, but it says we're updating the Parks and Recreation. Could include updating what we've already agreed and we've started. So
Already agreed to what?
we've already agreed to start that master plan.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, because we're,
So on strategy 2.1, under goal 2, the Willow Watson, we've consider our plan where we're in the middle of a restoration plan for Willow Lake.
Oh, yeah, Willow Lake, yeah.
So maybe instead of consider a plan, it's continue with our goal of reducing algae and weed growth, blah, blah, blah. So,
Can do.
Yeah. Yeah, we got that in there. Algae, weed growth, invasive species. Okay, 68, 69. Under upcoming projects include, the first bullet point, I'd like to include, including Phase 2. Complete new Glassford Dells Regional Park, including Glassford Hill. Maybe just put Phase 1 completed and working on Phase 2. Complete the North Peavine Trail to the headwaters of the Verde River. So this is very regional. This is basically very outside our city limits, but it shows how comprehensive this is, regional cooperation. Complete the Granite Dells Regional Park. I think that those bullet number 1 and bullet number 3 could probably be combined.
I think 3 is specific to the Gateway Park, which is right down along the.
Oh,
89.
yeah, that one. Okay, got it. And then I think we did construct, didn't we already do the Pioneer Parkway trailhead? I think we already got that one done. Yeah. Yeah, I think Joe Baines did that. And then construct the White Spar trailhead. I think that might be done. And construct the Bean Peaks flow trails. I think that's done. But there might be another phase going in. I think they just did Phase 1. Might say, you know, so we have more, we can show that these things were completed.
Yeah, we might just have 2 separate lists that have recently completed projects for those ones that we have completed, and then other upcoming projects for the ones we haven't quite gotten done yet.
Yeah. And improve connections to the Prescott Circle Trail. That's always a good one. And then the only change I have in the second column is work with Y Plan instead of SIMPO, and then change their website. 69. Okay, moving on to page 75, page 70. Pedestrian and bicycle circulation. I think this was very comprehensive. I don't know if we want to edit it, but I didn't have any changes on page 70.
No, I didn't either.
Yeah, but I think it's important that we keep a lot of bike verbiage in here for grant funding.
I don't remember spotting anything in here, though, about the distinction between bikes, regular, what we all rode as kids, and e-bikes.
Oh, e-bikes.
E-bikes,
Yeah,
especially
I
some
think-
of the ones that get up at 25, 35 miles an
Yeah,
hour.
we might talk about that under strategies and goals. Put something in there about e-bikes.
Is there? Oh, I didn't see it there.
Yeah. And anyway, on 71, there's another reference to SIMPO that needs to be changed to Y Plan. So that's 71.
That's the nice thing about find and replace as a function.
Control F. We've got
Yes.
it.
Yeah. And then page 72, maybe we should put in bicycle goals and pedestrian strategies, something about, it talks about motorized at the top for motorized and non-motorized users. Put something in there about, I forget what they call it. There's different categories or classes to keep certain classes that go over, was it 25 miles an hour off of our trails? Because those things are like riding motorcycles. you can really get going on them.
Right, I think there's some distinction between e-bikes that require, or at least include as one of their modalities, human-assisted,
Pedal assist.
and then
yeah.
others that just hit the button and
Yeah, the
go
way they
like
go.
crazy.
Yeah.
It could be something that's included with rec services master plan as well, but if not, we'll make sure we coordinate with
for
them.
the trails, because that's something that we need to maybe codify, work on that
You know,
for
there
the
may-
safety of the hikers.
Right, and to the extent that the trails, certain trails anyway, are open for a variety of modalities, not just hikers, but horses and e-bikes, something in there about maybe educating, educational goals for sharing the trail. I'm not sure where we should stick that in, but you know, the people who ride bikes routinely are aware of the stay left, stay right, you know, call out if you're passing somebody, but not everybody knows these things, and certainly not everybody knows the best way to share a trail with a horse. Might not be a bad strategy to include some education opportunities for sharing the trail.
Strategy 2.4 under design new and reconstructed roadways to provide multimodal facilities. I don't know if multimodal, I think they're pathways. I don't think I'd call them facilities, multimodal facilities. It makes me think of bathrooms or something.
No, I agree. Multimodal facilities is a little,
Yeah.
that's a mouthful.
Yeah, pathways. And I'd include design new and reconstructed roadways in conjunction with ADOT and Y-Plan. We're working with them currently to get the multimodal pathway out on 69 that was removed when they did the highway and get that reinstituted. So we are working on with ADOT. I think it's important. They're important partners, ADOT and SIMPO. Or there I go. Y-Plan, formerly known as Prince. So that's page 72, 73. Then we move on to the dark sky community. Should that be in an energy element? I mean, it's kind of thrown in here after transportation. Residential home lighting, dark sky. Don't you think should be someplace else?
Well, I think that the theme of kind of as we've gone through is that there will be a general reorganizing of things. So that could certainly be just something that we look
Yeah.
at when we redo the document.
And I'm a big supporter of the dark sky community and tourism. You know, we could say that it's important for tourism because if tourists know, eco-tourists know that you're a dark sky community, they know that you're aware of other things, you know, like wildlife and preservation of our quality of life, natural beauty, and kind of bleeds into the other things. And say something that we're in the middle of replacing our old, what are those things? Phosphorus, solar, sodium. Street light heads with LED.
Is that an ongoing thing? I know we just
Yeah.
had the small amount, frankly, of LEDs to replace certain sodium streetlights. I don't know if
arterials.
that's ongoing beyond what the grant is allowing us.
Yeah, it's going to be ongoing. Yeah, this is it was in our the energy audit. The Schneider energy audit recommended this, and so we did get a grant from the Department of Energy. But it says parking lot lighting is required to be high pressure sodium. Required by whom? We certainly don't want to do that. We can replace them in parking lots too, like out here in the city hall. So I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, do we have an answer? Do we know that?
What, where are you?
I'm on Dark Sky Community, page 73, first paragraph.
Oh, okay.
Parking, it's kind of in the middle.
Because we do have lighting elements in our land development code, but offhand, no, I don't know where we require.
Yeah, I've never heard for parking.
And that may be a part of the code that's a holdover from when that was state of the art to effectively light up a parking lot. But we've moved on since those times. And who knows, maybe that might be a bit of code that needs to be updated, because LED lights have come a long way, and the current versions provide just as much light, functional light, as the old sodiums.
Yeah.
So that might be something for code revisions to look at.
And, the county last year adopted the dark sky ordinance. I don't know if you guys knew that. They had like 2 pages in the Courier of public notice. And I think that would be nice if we included that in here, saying that it would be, since our county has adopted it, it'd be nice to, collaborate with them. And
Actually, and maybe legal can tell me, since within the Prescott borders, we are county, we're in Yavapai County, so is the dark sky.
checkerboard. Yeah.
Yes. So is the Yavapai County dark sky regulations, I'm not sure how they codified it. Are we required within the Prescott city limits to comply with the county rules?
No, so I was just looking to answer your question in terms of what we have in the document right now. So we do have in our code lighting standards in order to illuminate parking lots. So to your question with regard to basically the reason going back as to why we would say sodium would be for the amount of light that's provided. So if we are looking at redoing this, in order to comply with that, we would just need to show that those LED lights are illuminating the same amount that these sodium ones would. So I think a code renovation would be completely appropriate in that case. And I think it's something that we could do quite easily, actually. As to the county regulations, I don't know. I wasn't familiar that they had done that, so I'll go back and look at that and then see how they codified that, if they did make an ordinance or something like that, and then we can address that at the next meeting if you want.
In general, though, does a county ordinance or code require us as Prescott citizens to comply?
No, just county islands that would be in the city limits, like Granite Dells, out Iron Spring, like Mountain Club, in
Right.
the county.
So they're county islands, so they're county.
Yeah, so they would be county. They'd be
But
under the county.
Within the city limits, are we required to follow county ordinances?
To the extent that our charter becomes our constitution. So to the extent that our charter and our ordinances don't conflict, then we would be fine. I would just go back. I'm going to go and look at that and try to find that and see how they codified that. And then we can talk about it at the next meeting if you'd like.
I'm imagining, especially if it's in our charter, but even if it's just an ordinance or a code section, if we have conflicting laws on the books to what the county has, I'm assuming that the Prescott codes or laws or regulations apply, even if the county has something different.
Yeah, typically we can be more restrictive and typically not less restrictive. But again, I would want to go back to see if their ordinance was in reference to the amount of illumination, or if it was in reference to perhaps what you're saying, green energy, that sort of thing. In which case we may still not be using what they're using, but still in compliance. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And
Okay, great. That'll be great to get confirmation on that.
Yes.
And it would be interesting to know if they're actually a certified dark sky community, or they simply adopted some code measures that might qualify them for that. Because in this, I think the the earlier goal 1 probably talked to, I don't have it in front of me, probably talked to pursuing designation as a dark sky community. And this particular goal, is saying investigate the principles. But I was going to point out from a standpoint of competition with other cities, I was calling the city of Cottonwood, and I got a voicemail message that says, welcome to the city of Cottonwood, a dark sky community.
Very good.
There
And
you go. They're working it.
That's right.
What
Yeah.
I had read earlier about what the county had done, I don't believe they had sought out certification. They were just putting in language pointing in that direction.
But I seem to remember in the public notice for the county, I was very surprised. It did say dark sky. So I was surprised. And they did it without any rioting in the streets, apparently, too. I guess if the county does it, it's fine, but if we do it, it's a conspiracy somehow. But I just wanted to say this is one of the issues that people might think is woke or DEI or some one world government thing. And in my speaking to people, it is a nonpartisan issue, non-political issue. It's a quality of life issue that everybody in the community that I spoke to made a point that they liked having dark skies so they could see the Milky Way and the shooting stars, and also viewing the heavens as a lot of people's hobbies too.
And it sounds like this particular goal statement puts the responsibility for future direction on city council. So it's not like it came under Parks and Rec or some other department. It's at council's direction if we choose to investigate becoming engaged in the certification of a dark sky
Because
community.
there will definitely be taxpayer savings in our lower energy bill if we switch over to the LEDs. So I don't see any downsides to this, and I don't see this as anything woke. I wouldn't want to remove it
No, I agree.
from the general plan.
As some might suggest, I'm ready to strike a lot of things that are nice to have, but I think this is a good thing to keep, especially the way it's worded, investigate the principles of dark sky communities and possible certification. But at this stage, and the way it's written up here, we're just looking at it. And we've already discussed the energy savings as well as the environmental savings and the tourism bump up for being, even if not certified, at least certification adjacent by incentivizing or promoting lighting that promotes dark sky.
Yeah. Okay. And I think it'll be in conjunction with the rest of Yavapai County, actually.
That might not be a bad thing to add in.
Yeah.
Other,
Yeah, I don't know if
nearby
Prescott Valley,
jurisdictions, including the
maybe
county.
Prescott Valley's already dark sky. I don't know. We may look into it.
And that might help people who are reading it and think, oh my God, it's Prescott as an HOA, to point out all the jurisdictions all around us that are going down this road. Might give them a little comfort.
Good point.
See what the neighbors are doing.
Based on the support it sounds like you all have for this section too, there was another goal as part of the March plan that you won't have in your packet because this is the June plan that we can send as a follow-up, so you all have that for reference and can decide if that's something you want to add in. It's a little bit more laid out in terms of moving forward to actually make something like that happen.
Okay,
So
yeah,
I'll send that as a follow-up.
Yeah, let's put that in.
Thanks.
Yeah, expound a little bit more on it. Okay. We're moving away from the skinny version somehow. But anyway, so page 74. Tree City, USA. My question is, can we, instead of being a participant in the actual Tree City, which costs money, can we just implement the principles and be a tree city anyway, because I think it's important that we preserve our trees, replace trees that we've lost. It's important since we're having hotter summers. It's nice to have trees in areas like parking lots and sidewalks and downtown where we have large amounts of hardscape. To have trees, and especially people don't know this, but in Prescott, at least before the drought, we had a pretty high water table. There were people that had artesian wells where we just had a lot of subsurface water, and with our creeks through the area that kept trees going without having to put them on a drip system. But I know that there were some naysayers out there about Tree City. Were you guys aware of that? They thought it was a plot or something.
I do think there is a concern to be addressed as far as incentivizing people to plant trees, maintain trees, especially trees that are water suckers. You know, you think of willow trees, not desert willows, but willow trees are notorious for sucking giant amounts of water.
Right.
Cottonwoods also.
Cottonwoods, yeah.
So there's a conflict in my mind between encouraging people to plant and sustain more trees, and on the other hand, trying to tamp down irrigation use of water.
Yeah. So I think our question is for the consultant, instead of having, what do you think, Patrick? Should we push ahead with a official, formal tree city where you have to pay, I think it's 2% of your something per, it's based on per capita. They count the population.
I
You have to
don't
spend a certain
I
amount.
don't think we have to
every
answer
year.
that today. I think
Yeah.
the question for me is it a goal that's worth pursuing? And I think it's worth following the recommendation that's in the Goal 1 statement.
Yeah, because it says here, trees clean our air, filter our water, and slow storm surge and flooding. And I was going to put in cool parking lots and sidewalks, buildings with shade. But then it's in the bullet points too. And instead of using, the last bullet point, instead of saying mitigating the effects of climate, which might set people's hair on fire, just say produce oxygen, and maybe just remove because all the bullet points ahead of that, that's what it does, mitigating the effects of climate change. But anyway, that's, and then we should throw in something about our historic semi-quincentennial historic oak tree. We have the state tree on the courthouse plaza, and maybe to say how important trees are, especially in Arizona. So we'll ask the consultant about that. So that's 74, and 75 is a big picture.
It'll be the next chapter.
Okay, is this our last one?
Can I call timeout?
Yeah, I think we need time out. Do you guys want to just push ahead, or should we come back? It's already 5:15. Should we?
We need to think about the staff.
Yeah, I think, you guys are on the overtime now, right? Double time and a half. Should we just, in our next meeting, roll this one into the next meeting? Because the next meeting has just one chapter on it, I believe.
Yeah, so next time we'll go over Chapter 4, Chapter 5. Chapter 6 is the amendments, but we'll go over that and then all of the maps.
Yeah, so this is Chapter 4.
Can you remind me when the next meeting date is?
April 8th. And at that time, too, we put the request out for proposals with a deadline of end of March in hopes that we'll have it all ready to present to you at April 8th as well for selection.
Great, thank you.
Have we had any applicants?
Not yet. I've heard from one person, and so anyway, not official submittals yet quite.
And is that our last, is the April 8th our last scheduled?
It could be. I know we did only probably like 4 or 5. Liza, if you could check. We only did a few because we were trying to gauge if every other week worked, just the schedule in general. So we just kind of booked it out a little bit.
This is our third.
This is the 3rd, yeah. April 8th will be the 4th, and then I think we're planning April 22nd, which would be the 4th Wednesday.
4, 5, 6, and maps can all be squeezed into.
No, at this point we're going a solid 2 chapters per meeting. So,
We've got them on the calendar until July 8th.
oh, super. On the 1st and 3rd Wednesday, or yeah, 2nd and 4th Wednesday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to wait till April 8th, or should we just add something in? Do 2 hours?
Well,
Are you're
council.
France? Is that what you do?
And you're going to do it virtually too, I hear. And never come back.
That's why I was
for another-
voting for 6.
Yeah, for 6. 6 consecutive.
Yes.
I would be up for March 25 if that is what works out, but I don't want to make Patrick's head explode.
Oh, that's the same day as our special meeting?
No, that's the 24th.
Oh, the 24th.
Wednesday,
The 25th.
just to
Yeah,
continue
I'll have to
on.
Yeah, I'm just being honest.
at my calendar.
I would have to, we have a medical situation in the family, and I will be out of town that Thursday and Friday.
Okay.
The 25th?
But the 25th is a Wednesday.
Okay. All right, well,
Could you do
we
the-
can,
Could you do the 25th Wednesday?
let me look.
Put you on the
That,
spot.
that sounds like a number in my head that I got a lot going on. Don't you have your cell phone?
Councilman Grady, if I remember correctly, you had
I'm a
said
Luddite.
that you were available early because you needed to be ready to leave. You were getting ready to leave that afternoon, so that's why we ended up just canceling it because I wasn't sure that early worked for the rest of the committee members. But you did mention it would need to be early if it was on Wednesday.
Oh, I have a Y Plan strategic plan workshop on the 25th, which is 6 hours long. And then I have 10 a.m. the Mayor Charter Review Commission, and then I have the Y Plan Executive Board meeting at 1. So, yeah, I don't think I'd be available.
That's a no-go. That's a
Sorry.
no for you. And Patrick. you-
It's my part-time job too.
No, that's right. Those are campaign promises.
Yeah, I'm just yeah, here I am.
All right.
Well,
so
why don't we,
April.
April 8th, and we'll just get into turbo
I
speed.
mean, we'll still be in good shape to be done before we select the consultant anyway. So.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any more comments? This meeting is adjourned.